right, yeah. It's already fallen off my page. But I highlighted it, so I'll jump on it.
Thank you for any input you have there.
Sure.
And I'll try to follow up with you when you have a minute to look at it.
Shane, are you ready?
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm ready. All right, let's call the special select board meeting of Monday, June 10th, 2024 to order. Item 2 is additions or deletions to the agenda.
I move to delete consideration of select board pay orders from the agenda and adjust the agenda to address the executive session as the next order of business.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 3, the executive session, the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee per 1 VSA 313A3.
I move to enter executive session to consider the employment or evaluation of a town employee pursuant to Title I VSA Section 313A3 and invite
Nick Doan.
Nick Jones to Nick Doan to attend the session.
And Shane too?
And Shane O'Keefe also.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So you excuse us for a few minutes.
double you guys it up. No. Come here.
You good?
Folks haven't signed in already, there's a sign-in sheet back there.
Jenny, you good? Did you turn that off?
I'm set.
Okay.
You know,
Alright, moving on to item 4. Oh, we just came out of executive session at
6:36.
6:36. Moving on to item 4, old business. 4A is discuss the zoning bylaw amendment process. Would you like to start, Martha?
Is this the time where you're allowing me to read this letter, or would you like me to just talk about the bylaw amendment hearing process?
Let's talk about the bylaw amendment process first, because Doug is on duty for the rescue squad, and he might get a call and have to leave.
Sure.
So I have one, I don't know if it's a regret, but, you know, one of the rules that I stuck in there, sort of a town meeting rule, it says people can't speak from paper.
Yeah.
As I recall, the meeting we had the other day, somebody had something that they read, and I thought it was pretty good, because it was to the point. It wasn't political. It wasn't going off on tangents, and I thought it was well written and got to the point. And then I thought, well, I don't want to squelch stuff like that, but on the other hand, we don't want people to stand up and go off on tangents and all, you know, read somebody else's manifesto or something.
I mean, we could amend them.
So the past day or two after I sent that out, I started to wonder that I don't want to have anybody feel like their opinions have not been heard.
We can take that out pretty quick. I mean, the only
well, they
thing,
had their 5
long
minutes,
as
and when the
it's
5 minutes is up,
yeah,
it doesn't matter if it's left on the page they wanted to read.
the only thing on
That's true, it's a good point.
the only thing on the mailer going out is a QR code to the website, so it does not state the rules on the mailer.
Yeah, I guess in retrospect, I put that in there and I think I kind of regret it.
I agree. I think some people have a easier time speaking off the cuff, and others having a written document, whether it's on a piece of paper or it's on their cell phone.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem, as long as we make sure it's germane.
Or they
Well,
put
that's
their
a-
thoughts down on paper versus trying to think of what they want to say, and it's just they're taking their thoughts off
Yeah,
of that to
yeah,
then make
yeah.
a conversation
Yeah.
of what they want to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of little stuff.
Yeah.
I'm better organized when I have
Yeah,
Or-
sure.
something written down, you know, like, because otherwise I will go off.
Sure.
Well, we don't want anybody forgetting something they want to
And we
say.
put the,
Well, it's more of a restraint for me.
Have we put the rules
I'll
up
go
on the
off
website yet?
schedule if I don't have it. If I have it, I'll.
Tina combined the rules with the agenda
okay,
on a certain page, so it's
so,
easy to change.
Yeah.
Just get rid of number 3.
yep,
Yeah, I can't remember, what, I'm trying to pull it up, I'm being
Well, it's
unsuccessful.
3.
What is it, what is number 3 exactly?
Speeches and reading from paper is not permitted except, participants can read from the bylaws when speaking.
Yeah, so we could just drop it.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
yeah, that's easy enough.
And I think you still have, there's still other things in here, and like you said, as long as it's germane, and as
Yeah.
long as nobody's,
Political speech.
yeah, campaigning, I guess,
Yeah.
then there's other things.
So if they get up there and they start the campaign, do we have the ability to tell them enough?
I just
Doug
pull them
does.
out of order.
Yeah,
I just say, excuse me, but you're out of order. So what you're talking about now isn't germane to the bylaws, and now the other thing that's different than town meeting though, is that in town meeting, the body has the final say on everything. Here, you have the final say on everything. So if I rule somebody out of order at town meeting, the participants can overrule the moderator. In this case, it's the select board that would have the final say.
Yep.
And I can just mention that we go, it's the select board's rules.
Sounds good.
So one of the thoughts, Tom, you and I had discussed was, and Will, I'm gonna mention you and your work, but was making sure there was a way for us at the beginning of the meeting to have a list of all of the, I guess they're articles, but all the articles that you have addressed, or how would you say it, but the ones that have been raised as a concern, the ones that you've determined are either not legal or unenforceable or not the will of the people or whatever the criteria are. But so that we have a visual of what's been addressed or submitted to us, and then what still needs to be addressed. And I'm almost thinking of like a spreadsheet that people can see if we, itemize something. I don't know. How do we do that? How do we?
Well, I think for this meeting, it would just be the things people have raised. There's a lot more things that I spotted, I don't think that need to be covered on the 17th. But it's already been started, a list of everybody's comments.
Right.
Yeah, things that have come in already via email or however.
Yeah.
We're putting on a shared document, and little by little, you're gonna make some change or responses to it, and also the question is potentially make responses, or should they not be part of it, or some
Meeting so far, I don't think that's necessary at this point. I mean, commission responds. I mean, do we back? The planning commission has taken their version and handed it to us. Make the changes.
they may not want to.
Going back to them is sort of like, if we ultimately send other changes back or however it ends up going, that would be the turnaround to the planning commission, as opposed to like having them weigh in on individual things throughout the process.
So there's some things that you probably brought up. I reviewed some of them before I gave them to you, and there's some things that there's really no response to it. It's sort of rhetorical. I think this is bad.
Right, but I think some of those things, like especially home businesses and home occupations, are there's gonna have to be a meeting just on that, or half a meeting just on that. Because people wanna go back further than the current bylaws. So.
But my sense is the only way we can hand it back to the planning commission is if we don't adopt them, if we reject them. Is that right?
That's my read.
Yeah, because at this point, what we deliberate on is what Will advises us, right? And we decide we like it or we don't like that particular adjustment to one of the articles, if you will. So the only way it goes back to the planning commission is if we reject it. Am I right? Does that sound right?
Or do nothing.
Or do nothing and then
Or after,
150
the
days
150
pass.
days goes by,
Right.
and then it goes back to automatically.
So it still stays in our purview.
But it still requires, the longer we draw this out, the more it requires Will to look at 2 sets of bylaws, and he might have to put permits on hold.
We absolutely understand that, but I think what we should do is park that concern, acknowledge it, park it, and try to figure out how the process will work and how to make it work effectively so that we minimize the time that Will has to work with too. I mean, that's basically our objective. So I know that's a concern for you, Tom. In fact, there was this whole bylaws amendment review by the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, which basically
It's really specific to the issue
It's
of the
specific to
dual
this issue of the dual
bylaws.
Yep.
And so I just want to mention that there is this matrix I put together on different things that the board can do. I'm pretty sure this is correct. A lot of it's based upon some back and forth with the Vermont Cities and Towns attorneys, but I was gonna have Bob Fisher give it a once over. But these are, from my read of the statutes, these are the things you're gonna do. Adopt, warn a town meeting vote, reject it, take no action, make minor changes or substantial changes, which is the same process.
I feel like as using this as an outline, this could be a pretty simple way for the select board just to say, all right, let's talk about number one. And are we considering that? And then you move on. How about number two? Are we considering that? What are, if we can say like, okay, we're definitely not doing this, or this, then we can narrow it down to maybe 2 choices instead of 5 choices. And
But the only way we can address these is either in this conversation today or after we adjourn the hearing
right.
on the 17th and say, okay, we're back in select board mode, here's what we want to think about. There is this phenomenon that's going to happen, which is we're going to accomplish a lot on the 17th, but we're not going to finish it all, right? Well, it's clear that this is, the amount of content that we're going to be working through is more than probably one night, right?
Right, I picture us getting through people's comments,
Yeah,
the public's comments,
right.
and not settling any of the issues, or any of the hard issues.
Right, so we're going to need to close that hearing, and if we want to keep doing our job, have a second hearing or a continuation of that hearing. Is that right, Shane?
No, you'd have to warn a second hearing.
You would close the hearing, and then my thinking on this is that the select board would meet in a regular meeting.
Yep.
It could be directly after that or a separate meeting, and talk about all the comments that were received and what you want to do with those. And then I know, Tom, you mentioned you had some suggested changes. Will mentioned some suggested changes, and pick them off one by one, because it may be that they're good changes and it's worth doing, or you vote, hey, this one, let's not make this change, let's do, you can go through it, and it could be a lengthy but simple process. It's probably not going to be real simple, but it is, over 2 or 3 meetings, I would suspect.
Right.
Maybe, Will, you think a
But
little
that
more, just to go over these changes.
Meetings, or are you talking about,
Say again?
are you talking about select board meetings or?
Select board meetings, yeah.
That's the 3 meeting, that's...
Every time we change this, we
45
gotta have
days.
another public hearing.
Well, no,
Yes.
it's not for each change. You just make all the changes that you'd like to see, come to a conclusion that the board can live with, and then have a public hearing based upon those changes that you're gonna work with.
And then you're sort of revealing all the changes at once in the
One
hearing.
Yeah, and then it goes back
To a
to
hearing.
the other guys, and they send it back up.
No, it doesn't go back to the
You
planning
go,
commission.
the select board establishes or sets a new public hearing, and with that new proposal, the whole new zoning bylaw, you have to send a copy to the town clerk and to the planning commission. And the planning commission has to revise the report that it submitted on April 17th or something like that. So that's what the process would be.
Yeah, the only way it goes back to the planning commission is if we reject it, or I believe at the 150 days
Right,
goes up.
which is
Take
like
no
October
action.
18th, if we don't act by October 18th or something, that's my date.
So, just so that I understand these options, if the select board chose to warn a town meeting vote, would there be any chance that that could happen during the other warned special town meeting? It would happen.
No, you'd have to have 30 days notice.
Yeah, it's too late.
Okay, because that's July. Well, July
July 13th?
13th. Yeah, so it would be from the hearing date, which then it wouldn't be 30 days, right?
Yeah. Yeah, any special town meeting requires 30 days notice.
Yeah, okay.
I wonder if you could just, you could potentially vote tonight to, I need to look at the statute on it, but you could just vote tonight to put it to a town meeting on the 13th. There is time. You do have more than 30 days.
But what you're asking at the town meeting is what? It's-
To adopt it or not adopt it.
Right, and if we don't adopt it
At the town meeting?
at the town, I gotta think
It's
that-
dead.
It's dead. The new one, the new set is dead.
Right.
I think, I mean, it might be worth considering, I guess, just because of the amount of, and the nature of the requests that we've had. I mean, I don't know.
One of the issues is it's not really on the agenda to warn a town meeting, and you don't have a warning you don't have a document to approve.
And just to be clear, if Will has to put permits on hold, we could be in a whole nother mess. You could have some contractors who can't do their job and they're gonna be pissed.
But I don't know that he's putting them on hold. He's granting them based on either the proposed or the prior bylaw, the existing bylaws.
It's gotta fit both. I believe.
I thought
Yeah,
it
if there's
was,
a conflict, it has to,
If there's a conflict, right, it has to fit both, right?
and
So,
if not, it's
hard
held
time
off
seeing
until
it
it's,
happen.
until the new bylaws are passed or the old bylaws are.
So can I ask a question?
Anna, go
Are
ahead.
you talking about us having the hearing and then people asking their questions and Will reading like what's gonna be enforced and what's not gonna be enforced or what's gonna be having to be discussed on voting that day on what everybody comes up with? And then not having like another warning or another hearing and then settling it that day? Or is that not what you're talking about?
It wouldn't be settled that day, and this is my recap, so anybody else can jump in, but, so the conversation would be, get all the questions and concerns on the table to be considered. Then the hearing closes, and the select board has the opportunity to adopt, warn a town meeting, reject, take no action, make minor changes, or make substantial changes. So at the end of that meeting, the select board could make that decision based on the nature of the way the hearing went. If there's only a few concerns and we can make, minor changes, then you could vote towards that. If it's substantial changes, we could vote towards that. I mean, I think you kind of have to have the meeting to be able to know how the vote would go. It's not going to be determined that night how the bylaw is written. That determination won't be made. The action on how to change or adopt or reject or how we're going to treat the bylaw that will be the only action taken that night, right?
Correct, how we,
Yeah, you could take almost any one of these actions. I don't think you're gonna.
right.
You could. I mean, anything can happen, but
I can take all but 3 of those off there, or 2 of those actually.
Does that answer your question? It's confusing.
I'm thinking about it.
It's very confusing.
Because can you give me an example?
So,
Just pick like one of the bylaws and give me an example of what you just said on how it could play out. So let's pretend we've already had the hearing.
Yep, so
People
let's
have come
just,
and they've asked their questions. Now just pick one randomly.
let's just say, bylaw Z, somebody comes to the hearing and says, we don't like it.
Okay?
So the select board, considers that input and determines if there's enough concern about A, B, C, D, E, F as well, then you lump those changes together and decide the action that you're going to take. We're not going to take individual action on those items in the first meeting. It's going to be,
And I think we task Will to tell us whether or not it's legal, it fits with the town plan, it accords with the people's will, and is it enforceable, which are the 4 criteria.
I think the main purpose is to get all the concerns like down and
Yep.
heard, and then figure out how much that really is. If it's not a lot, and like Shane said, it might, in a few meetings, we might be able to put all that together and satisfy the concerns. We kind of have to hear what the concerns are to be able to determine how much change there needs to be. So I think that determination will be based on what is heard in the meeting. But it's not going to be treatment of individual concerns within that meeting. It's going to be listening to it and then figuring out what to do.
Right, as a town, as a whole,
As a whole.
with everybody being there.
Yes.
Right, and then we go off and ask Will to evaluate it.
I think if you did go that route, there would be a petition for a Australian ballot.
If what?
Well,
If you went the route of saying we're gonna make minor changes.
The minor changes, you wouldn't have to have another public hearing. Major changes, you have to have another public hearing.
If you read I asked that specific question of PLCT, if the way the statute is written, no matter what changes you make,
Okay,
you have to have a public hearing.
right. But we're not,
And you have to refer it to the clerk and the planning
Okay.
commission.
well, I don't think we're talking about minor changes here. The public is not, at least.
well, and
Let's see.
There are substantial changes that are being discussed in the public.
I think that I'm sort of responding to concerns that were directed to me over the last couple of weeks, where I feel like when the decision was made to not appoint another member and say we're going to have a town meeting for that, I'm just wondering if it makes sense to consider the town meeting vote for the adoption process as well, because we made one choice in that.
I think those are 2 completely different issues.
I don't know
One
if
is a membership of this body, and the other is how we handle this product that's been delivered to us. They're 2 different issues.
and also
And
the warning for the special town meeting does not have anything about the bylaws in it, so we would actually have to warn
Right,
another special
right,
meeting,
right.
come out of the one special meeting, go to another one.
Right.
And if we make substantial changes, we have to have another hearing. Hearings need 15 days notice, so I don't think you'd have time.
Well, let's at least, I mean, the process is designed by the state of Vermont so that communities can go through this vetting process. Let's give it a fair chance. Let's look and listen to what our community is saying is of concern. Let's alleviate fears. I will say that, the planning commission that just met was able to answer a lot of questions for people about grandfathering, and that allayed a lot of concerns. So let's let the hearing do what it's supposed to do, to create an interrogatory between us and our residents about issues. And Will's our guide. You are our navigator on this, to say this is able to be adjusted and fixed easily or not. So we have to rely on him. It is going to take a couple of hearings. There's no question. We don't suspend the first hearing. What we do is do we continue it? What is the formal
You can.
term that we're
No.
going to do if we don't get it all done on night 1?
You're gonna come out of a public hearing, and then the select board's gonna meet and discuss
That
potential
night, yeah.
changes that night and subsequent nights. And eventually make decisions, yes, this change here
Yep.
makes sense, this one doesn't, and come up with a consensus or a quorum decision on what you want to advance.
Yep.
If that's what you want to do. So that could take a number of meetings. But then eventually, once you have what you
Right.
envision as being the one you want to approve,
It's got
you schedule a public hearing
Yep.
and discuss that again.
Yep.
And there may be, again, more input that
Right.
calls for more work.
Right.
Doug, you first.
I have a question regarding this idea of having to adhere to two different laws. I mean, isn't this kind of like you have one set of bylaws until you,
No.
Technically not.
It's 24 VSA 449D.
You have two bylaws that you have
Is that
to
right?
look
I
at.
think that's right.
even once,
I don't
once
have
the
it
planning
memorized.
commission proposes them?
Then once we set a public hearing, Will has to go over,
With both.
he has to go over everything with two bylaws.
Oh.
And if
It's
it
a
doesn't fit within
That's the
both,
law.
then it's put on hold.
Yeah, it says, shall review any new application filed after the date of the notice under the proposed bylaw amendment and applicable existing bylaw.
Thank you.
It's a weird
I
one.
get it.
It's a tricky
I get
one.
it, yeah.
Pretty convoluted. So in a sense, the ordinance as warned is already partially in effect.
Yeah, that's not, but that's our state.
I didn't make the rule.
Yeah.
No, we gotta follow. Gotta follow.
Any further, oh, Anna, you had a question, sorry.
Well, so my other question was, so after the hearing and you guys meet, is it only you guys that meet? The general public doesn't come to your?
No, that's an open
select board
meeting.
It's another
this.
Or it's just like this?
Just like this.
Just
So
like
after
this.
that hearing and, so then people can come
Yeah.
and listen?
We can't go
To
into
your
executive
discussions.
session. So,
They'll,
Yeah.
you know, bang the gavel, close the meeting,
Yeah.
close the hearing, and then
so the way it'll work is we open the select board meeting,
Yeah,
then we open the public hearing.
yeah,
Public hearing is closed,
yeah.
and then it's just a select board meeting after
Right.
that. Just like tonight.
Yeah.
Paul?
Just actually, what is a minor change and what is a major change?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that, or if you could have a copy of it.
the statute isn't real clear on
Yeah.
it, but what
Just
is
literally
clear
says
is,
It's like
if you
the
read it all
Supreme Court,
together,
like in pornography, you know when you see it?
Probably.
Well, that's actually.
that's Judge Potter, if I
In
recall.
these bylaws, if you look under the section of obscene signs.
But, you know, if you, minor changes and substantial changes are under the same paragraph, and if you read it carefully, it doesn't matter if it's minor or major. Any change at all requires a public hearing and notice to the clerk and the planning commission. If they're really minor changes, the planning commission doesn't really have to change the report that it's statutorily required to prepare.
Yeah, I think we're talking about changing the report.
Substantial.
I think anytime you change the content, that's substantial. If you changed like a few words or something that was missing or just.
Parking
fix-
requirement goes from 25 to 30, that's minor. That's not a substantial change.
Well, if you change enough minor things, it becomes major.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Everything goes under review anyway.
I guess I would like to add kind of more of a perspective that I've got on this, which is, I get that this short-term push, push is a bad word, the short-term meeting sequence that we're gonna have to me is hard, but I think it's much shorter than if we were to throw the document and reject it. Because we're talking, going back to square one, basically, and having to have a planning commission that's willing to rewrite, because we still need to be in compliance with state law. We need to make sure that we're in compliance with our town plan. And I get that this is gonna be hard work. That's what I signed up for, to be a select board member. So as long as we can together commit to that, I think we can take the good that we've got in that document, fix the stuff that doesn't work right, and bring it through the process, rather than looking at a very long-term scenario if we reject it.
Well, this isn't gonna happen overnight anyway, no matter how it
No,
works.
no.
And there's
Gonna be
always
a
a chance
painful
of
Thing.
a petition, if you approve it, to bring it to a town vote, isn't it?
Yep.
It's always there,
I think
yeah.
that's fairly,
Yeah, that's,
Or if it's rejected, it could also go, it could be
Right.
petitioned to go back
I
to
mean,
the
we
vote.
reject, we accept, or we amend. And I'm of the amend ilk, which is take what we've got and tweak it so that it fits with everybody's expectations.
Yes, sir.
If I could, one thing that, it was interested in determining whether or not when a regional commission could be at the meeting.
Yes.
In an advisory capacity, they can't. They're busy with other meetings. Or the town attorney being there, he is available, but I know that's something that the board should probably discuss,
Yeah.
whether or not Bob should be there.
Yeah. Oh, he is available though,
He's available.
and I would highly recommend he be there.
It's gonna be $1,000 or more to have him there.
Again, I think this is,
Lawyers aren't cheap.
I get it. That's, I mean, they go to school for a long time. That's why and they have also created an industry. But I think that we need to make sure we have the most accurate legal advice in this process. And to me, that's money well spent.
We're gonna submit this to the town lawyer anyway, right, man?
He's already reviewed it. But if there are whatever
If there are
changes
changes, he
come
has to
out,
see it.
he
So I
would.
pay him $1,000 twice, you know?
It's,
Do it and then have him look it over.
We've gone over the process for 3 meetings now, I think. We know the process.
I know, but I want to be sure that there's some third party here who could answer the question from a consumer who says, why do we have to do it this way versus another way? To me, it's as much about guiding us as it is helping demystify, where we can, the process for the consumer.
The process is pretty well laid out in the paperwork we have here.
Well, if you want to be charged with answering everybody's questions about process and you don't have a legal background, that's my concern.
Do you want to pay the lawyer $1,000?
I think it's money well spent. Don't we want to have the best advice? Why are we arguing over this? It's not to do anything illicit, it's to make sure it's painfully clear to all of us as to what we can do. And I think it's important to have that kind of third party and enterprise here.
I think Shane laid out what our options are right here. I've read the statute, I've read the VLCT.
I know we
thing.
have, but, so here's a perfect example. The first meeting on the 13th of June, 13th of May, was that the date? We didn't understand the process. And we spent 2 meetings basically wasting time since we'd gotten the document delivered to us.
We had 120 days to hold a hearing.
No, I get
There
that,
was
I
no
get
need
that.
to hold a hearing the next day.
But we had a lot of people who thought we were gonna be able to do something with their comments on that night of the 13th, and we couldn't, because the hearing needed to be set.
What we could do is we could listen to our constituents and hear
We
their
can, that's
voice.
what a hearing is, Tom.
That's what a select board meeting is too.
Tom, no, the hearing process for bylaws is very specific. And we didn't get to do on the 13th, the motion to set a hearing date for people. We didn't do it also then on the following week, which was the 20th, I think.
And we didn't have to.
But Tom, the process needed to follow the state statute, which was when we get it in our hand, we file for a hearing.
The process is we file for a hearing within 120 days.
But you saw the anger and you saw the concern, and the best place to receive that is in a hearing, not in a situation where all we can do is just sit there and write it down. We couldn't respond. It wasn't a hearing.
Why couldn't you respond? It's a select board meeting. You can perfectly respond to the public at a select board meeting.
I think the hearing was set on the 20th, wasn't it? May 20th.
The 20th, I think it was,
Yeah.
but the 13th, it wasn't. On the 13th, the select board meeting with an agenda item to set the select board UDR hearing item was not voted. On the 20th, the select board meeting, item 12A, discussed proposed zoning bylaw amendment. And that's what we did. But anyway, the point is, let's have legal representation here just to make sure everything is above board. I don't want to have a problem.
Is the actual hearing the place for that? Would we invite Bob to a regular meeting afterwards when we're considering the things that we hear in a list form? I don't know, I mean,
Could.
I just don't want to get into the weeds of like not to say that it's not important, but I just don't know if within the hearing is the time for that.
Well, so that's why I had suggested either somebody from the Wyndham Regional Commission, who as a district, as a region, have a responsibility to help towns with these bylaw amendments. If they couldn't be here to help us, and I'm gonna use the word handhold, because I think that's probably right, or navigate, then the next best option is to have the town lawyer who understands the stuff intimately. I think Wyndham Regional would have been probably better, because I think they're nuanced in terms of working with towns, whatever. But I do think having the attorney here, it's just having all your best resources available. That's all. Sorry.
Any further discussion? Good. Did you have a question there?
Can I just say something about that?
No,
To you,
after that.
let me say it to you. So by having the lawyer there, are you asking for the lawyer to be able to answer any questions that the public has?
No.
I think he would be a resource for the select board, but not to the general public.
Yeah, it's not gonna off the cuff.
He doesn't,
He's not gonna know your zoning rules, he's gonna know the law.
it's more
Mostly process.
it's process procedural stuff,
Yeah.
just to make sure we're ticking all the right boxes.
I guess that's the part that I was thinking was as a resource for the select board as opposed to, distinguishing it as a resource for the select board, not the general public on that day, because that would be like, I think we would get off track if we tried to sort all that stuff out.
Well, imagine if someone said, is it legal to include a provision that says whatever this says? He could say, yes, it is, or no, it's not.
We could have him answer on our behalf.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that would be a definitive answer, at least from the town standpoint.
Well, considering he's gone over the bylaws already, I'm pretty sure he would have taken out anything that wasn't legal.
But, right, but
Pretty sure Bob wouldn't sign off on anything that had something illegal in it. Any further discussion? Hearing none?
What I will do is I'll send this to Bob for a look-see to make sure it's as accurate as I believe it is.
Yeah. Before we move on to item 5, you can read the letter.
right, so, so everybody knows, an individual in town has written a letter that is being submitted to the local papers. And when she shared it with me, I thought, this is a fairly important message that I think as many people as possible might want to listen to. And I think take it whichever way you'd like. But anyway, I asked Tom and Shane if I could read it, and they said yes. So it says, Dear Editor, I have owned a home in Londonderry since 2002 and have lived here full-time since 2008. I met my husband here, by the way, this is not Martha Dale talking, I'm reading this letter. I met my husband here in 1998. Our first date was at the Mill Tavern, and we've always knew that this would be our forever home. Back then there were local, second homeowners, and new faces in the community every ski season as workers and ski bums alike. We all lived in the mountain communities, and it didn't seem contentious or us versus them. It worked. The community needed the second homeowners to thrive, especially to carry us through the shoulder seasons. I've seen our community get fired up and organized in the past over certain causes. school budgets failing because of the elimination of staff and services, speeding, crime and drugs, roads not being maintained properly, the Williams Dam report, the troll on Winhall Hollow, just to name a few. But never in my 22 years of living in Londonderry have I ever seen or heard some of the terrible personal attacking rhetoric that is in our community today. It raises this question: what has changed? Is it the town's Facebook forum where anyone can say anything at any time without fact-checking and without consequences for spreading falsities and promoting bad behavior? How have we gotten to this point? Why is there mistrust of our town's elected and appointed officials? Are the active voters the ones spewing the negative rhetoric, or is it a handful of disgruntled residents that are the most vocal, canceling out the voices of those who trust in the process by remaining informed and involved? The real question is, quote, why is this acceptable to treat our neighbors this way, end quote. The Select Board's silence, Chairman Tom Kavanaugh's silence, gives permission to those voices to continue this hateful and aggressive behavior. The Select Board must make a statement condemning this behavior and deeming it unacceptable in every way. Orderly meetings, modeling behavior, and communicating factual information would go a long way. I have seen firsthand our diverse community come together during the floods and other difficult times, neighbors helping neighbors, strengthening the trust and fabric that hold this community together. Folks who have lived their entire lives shoulder to shoulder with new and part-time residents, all in the good faith of the town they love. I have then seen our community celebrate these successes with a Mountain Town fundraiser at Pingree Park, spreading more good faith and trust by raising money and thanks to our first responders in the mountain towns. Let us not forget that community spirit that is the Londonderry we know and love. Let us all aspire to do better. Behavior that targets other community members for attacks should not be accepted, ever. Sincerely, Melissa Brown, Londonderry.
Doug, do you have anything before we move on?
I don't think so. I'll go over, I'm sort of reviewing the rules now for public hearings, and I'll make sure I know what the process is. It seems pretty straightforward.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 5, new business. 5A, consider contract with Wyndham County Sheriff's Office for fiscal year 2025 policing services.
Did that go up?
It goes up
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah, it went up, present fiscal year is $52 per hour, it's going up to $54 an hour. And it was 48 the year before that, and it was 41 for the 2 years prior to that.
No, it didn't go up every year.
During COVID. They level funded it during COVID. But, yeah, our budget for fiscal '24, we were coming out of is $55,000, and for fiscal '25, it's $57,000. We do cover it. We knew what the rate was going to be well ahead of time.
Was there any action on this regional policing initiative?
It's coming up later this month.
Okay.
I think it's
So we need to go ahead and sign this?
Yeah, this has to be, yeah, the regional one wouldn't be for a year or two at the earliest. Yeah, this needs to be signed before June 30th also. And it's the same contract we've signed the past several years.
Anyone can make that motion?
I move to accept and approve the police services contract with the Wyndham County Sheriff's Office for FYI 2025 and authorize the town administrator to execute the documents on behalf of the board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, moving on to 5B, discuss summer meeting schedule.
Every year we kind of look at the schedule to see if there's, based upon the holidays and whatnot, and some months have 5 Mondays to make some adjustments, and so again, We also need to squeeze in there a couple of special meetings this June, this month, to accommodate the performance evaluations.
We seem to squeeze them in with amazing regularity.
So if you look at the last page of the meeting packet, you'll see that one proposal is to adjust the July schedule from the 1st and the 15th to the 8th and the 22nd. That's because there's 5 Mondays that month. And that kind of just helps spread things out a little bit. Also in September, because of Labor Day, which is the 2nd of September, we move the meetings out to the 9th and the 23rd. Again, there's 5 Mondays that month. So there's that, and then the second proposal is just looks to move meetings out for July, August, and September. And then we need to, again, with special meetings, we're looking at the 20th in order to do performance evaluations for the transfer station folks, and there's other business we need to attend to. And then the highway crew is available the week of the 24th, so we could do a quick meeting on Monday the 24th or some other time that week. So whatever is your pleasure.
We're also scheduled July 13th as the special town meeting, right?
Yeah.
Right, that's the town meeting.
Correct.
Yeah, I didn't put that on.
It's not there. I unfortunately can't make either the 20th or the 24th.
Later on the week of the 24th?
Yeah, I'm away until back. I'm available 27, 28.
So 27 could work.
27 could work, I believe. Yes.
For one of them,
Yeah.
because we can't really combine those. That would be like
6 people?
5.
7?
Yeah.
2 here now.
Yeah, so total of 5, right?
Plus
Two
Mr.
road crew and 3, or how many?
Well, there's 4 at the transfer station if we're doing the part-timers too.
But that would be
Esther's gotta
one
be
night
done.
probably, and then the road.
And
crew
Liam's
would
gotta be
separate.
done.
Yeah, there's a lot to do.
It's definitely gonna take 2 meetings.
Yeah.
So do you want to grab the 27th and then figure out the road crew? Maybe that pushes into July.
Well, I was thinking the road crew on the 27th.
Oh, okay.
Is there any-
Do you want to
any-
keep the 20th and just not have me there?
We could
Certainly
do
could
too.
do that, I'm sorry, but, you know.
If that's all right with everybody?
I live across the street, you can have me anytime you want. I don't get much on mileage.
So then are we switching to the 8th and the 22nd? 18th?
On the 1st and the 8th, the people gonna be here. I mean, the 4th's right in the middle, so. So anybody going away for the 4th?
No.
Not really.
Right. So, I'm good with either way on that.
I was thinking that we set something for the 1st. There was a reason for meeting on the 1st. We may not have set anything, but we had talked about that. I think maybe it was reviews, but because I remember thinking about that.
Well, that's budget. That's the new budget.
Oh, maybe it was just
Yeah,
something
it's the
about
beginning
that.
of the fiscal year.
I don't know that we really have to change it, other than you've got the
Good night, folks.
I feel
27th, and then the 1st, the 13th, and the 15th, or the 8th, 13th, and 22nd. I guess it really doesn't matter that much.
Kinda feel like since we should stick to our general meeting schedule as much as possible, I would think.
I don't feel strongly about the July 1st one, I guess.
Do you want to hold that as a potential hearing date if we meet? I mean, we're going to have to probably schedule a more continued hearing. So save that as save the 1st of July as a potential, but keep 8 and 22 for July.
Well, you wouldn't be able to have a hearing on.
Yeah, you couldn't.
You could have a meeting, but not a hearing.
July 1st, you couldn't do a hearing because it's not within 15 days.
15 days notice.
Right, okay.
Technically.
It's got to be beyond 15 days, right? Yeah.
Yeah, plus you have to get it in the newspaper, and that's a Friday
Right.
deadline for Wednesday. So it probably just could get away with just changing it in September
Yep.
to avoid Labor Day.
Sounds good to me.
That's all I see.
Then we don't have to remember any new days either.
Right. Just
Okay, so
the-
We're on the same schedule still.
Okay, so we'll do 20, so we're staying in column number 1 then?
Column number 1 with the only change being September. 'Cause-
Adding the second, right?
No, taking the
not-
second out because that's
So-
That is, yeah, gotcha,
labor.
gotcha, gotcha.
You're getting rid of
Someday.
9/16, and you're adding 9/9 and 9/23.
Yeah,
Oh, that's the, okay, that's the only,
that'd be the only month that would change.
okay.
Right. And plus we're
Plus you're adding the 27.
June 20, June 27, yeah.
Yep.
Like that.
You got it. So just write them down. 23. Thank you.
So it's still, yeah, you get the second
16.
last 2 weeks of July are off. That sounds good.
I don't know, that's not.
What's
We'll
that?
probably have a special meeting.
How many Mondays in a
Well,
row?
once you have this, your vote on the 13th, you do have to have a select board meeting on the Monday. And you have to, I can't remember if you have to have elections or not. No, you don't have board elections, chair, vice chair, secretary, I don't think you have to. Yes, whoever gets elected the 13th can be at a meeting on the 15th.
Yeah, I jump right into it. Anyone can make that
Will we
motion?
make it?
Yeah.
Okay, I will. I move to adjust the schedule of regular board meetings this summer by dropping the meetings scheduled for September 16th and adding meetings on June 20, June 27, 9/9, and 9/23.
You dropped the second too, right?
So again?
You dropped the 2nd of September meeting too.
Oh, right.
No, it's only highlighted because it's a holiday. It's not.
Right, but there would be a meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
So you're right, Tom. So 9/2. Anybody second that?
Not
Second.
yet.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jim, you want the last one? You like that one?
I haven't said much all night. I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.